Well, I remember the day. I was 10 years old and I was playing baseball, and this was a game day. And as a 10-year-old, I loved baseball. It was my favorite sport that I had played, but I was really kind of struggling with a big part of the game, and that's batting. I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but I was a little timid when it came to swinging at the pitch, and I maybe a little bit afraid of the pitch as, kids were throwing a little faster now. But I'd get the bat, and oftentimes when you're a little more afraid up there, you don't swing the bat very often. And so you end up watching a lot of pitches come, and because of that, you often get struck out. Or even when you do swing the bat, you're not really like swinging on purpose or watching the ball, and you're just kind of like swinging to get out of there. And so I was struggling with hitting, and but like any kid, like I want to do good. I want to make my team proud, my mom proud, these things. And so this day before this game, a couple of my friends, they pulled me aside, and they're giving me some tips, some pointers, and they were pretty good at hitting. And so I valued what they had to say. And so they're telling me, Tony, you get up there and you're a little bit afraid, right? Well, what we want you to do is we want you just to be confident and swing at the first pitch, wherever it is. Just swing at the first pitch. And instead of standing back in the batter's box, we want you to crowd the plate, which means like put your toes closer to the plate. And just wherever that first pitch is, just swinging it. And so it's my turn at bat, and I've got this new confidence. I can hear the voices of my two friends saying, swing at the first pitch, swing at the first pitch, swing at the first pitch. And so I'm up there, and I'm in my stance, and I'm watching the pitcher come in, and he takes his, throw, and he throws it in, and I'm watching it come in, and I swing at that first pitch, and boom, I made solid contact with that first pitch. It was incredible as it went all of about 3, 4, maybe 5 feet away. And what happened is I was in instant pain. Now, if you're familiar with baseball and batting, you might know that on a bat, there's a sweet spot. And if you hit the sweet spot, that ball can go a mile. And then below the sweet spot, as you start to hit, there's the handle. And if you hit off that handle, it can rattle your hands and vibrate, and it just hurts. Well, in this occasion, I didn't hit off the sweet spot. I didn't hit off the handle. When I swung and I crowded that plate, and that pitch came in, and it came in as an inside pitch, and I swung so hard at that pitch, and it was it hit off my hand. And it just literally like dribbled out in front of me, and instantly I was in pain. I looked down at my hand, and it's starting to get black and blue and swell, and it was broken. I broke my hand that day listening to the words of my friends, just here, swing at the first pitch, crowd the plate. And I'll never forget that day, and I'll never forget how my knuckle here sticks up a little higher, and this one's a little lower, and because I broke my hand swinging at that pitch. But here's the reality. Something I learned that day, something I know to be true and you know to be true, is that our words are powerful, aren't they? Our words are powerful. Something else you hear as a kid oftentimes from your parents, because you're struggling with people's words, and kids can be mean to each other. And so parents will often say something like this to their kids. They'll say, sticks and stones, right? You've heard this. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Which is a big fat lie from your parents, okay? We know that. Like now as a grown-up, I know, and it didn't take long to learn that this is really just half true. Because the better way of saying this would be sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will hurt the most. Okay, words are powerful, and they have the ability to cut deep and dig deep. That's just the nature of our words. And so that's why we're doing a series like this, Me and My Big Mouth. And the reality is we all say different things, and we've all had those moments where we've said something and we wish it just went differently. I'm thankful that God gave us one of these buttons where we have the ability to put pause on the things that we say. We can stop like when you're digging yourself into a hole that you can't get out, you can stop. But what I wish God gave us the ability to do was have one of these buttons, right? Don't we all wish that? Where we could rewind the words that we've just said. Oh man, I wish I could take that back. I never knew how big of a deal those words were, or I never realized how much that would hurt you. Or, and so we wish we could take these words back and have a do-over and have a button like that. But that's why we're doing a series like this, Me and My Big Mouth, is because words are powerful. And to kind of catch you up from last week in case you missed it, and what I actually love about doing this online version of church right now. And if you're just tuning in with us for the first time and you're not even sure who I am, I'm Tony. I have the privilege of being the pastor at the meeting place. And I just want to say welcome. We're thrilled that you're tuning in with us online. If you're a regular at the meeting place, hi. I'm glad you're here with us tuning in. If you missed last week, it's super easy now to just jump to our YouTube page and go and check that out. It's another 20-minute message to kind of kick us off on this new series that we're doing. And then also, if you're watching this on Facebook or whatnot, Facebook's a great way to share these messages. And so if you have a friend that's got a big mouth and you know they need a series like this, share it with them and let them tune in and benefit from the content as well. But really to get you all caught up and the big idea from last week, and it boiled down to one main point, one simple practice for us, and it's just 6 little words here, but so much meaning. It's this right here, that we are to be together. We're to be quick to listen and slow to speak. Quick to listen and slow to speak. In fact, we wanted to make it so memorable that we put some just some hand motions to it, right? So the idea is that you sit with your fists clenched and then you just open them, quick to listen. We want to be quick to listen and slow to speak, like to offer anything back. I want to be open, physically open, quick to listen. I want my ears to be open. I want my mind to be open. I want my heart to be open to what you have to say. I'm going to be quick to listen and slow to offer anything back. I'm going to be slow to interrupt. I'm going to be slow to interject. I'm going to be slow to force myself to be heard and practice to be quick to listen. And so we've been doing that. Hopefully you've been able to even put that into practice this last week because it's so practical and so helpful as we build this new habit of being quick to listen and slow to speak. And the reason why we do this is because if you're in conflict or you're in an argument with somebody having a difficult conversation, what happens is as we get tense in these conversations, literally our body responds and our fists, our hands have this natural, without even thinking about it, we start to clench up or we start to cross our arms, and we get closed up. Our ears start to close, our mind starts to close, and our heart starts to close. And so this is the idea of building a habit of saying, you know what, I'm gonna stay open. I'm going to be listening to you. I want to understand. I want to hear from you. And the reason why all this is so important is because that very same person that you're having that conversation with, that difficult conversation or that argument or that confrontation, that same person that won't stop talking, you want the same thing. The same person that you're in conflict with, you both want the same thing out of it. And this is what we hit on last week, is that you and I, in that conflict, we want to be heard and we want to be understood. You want that. I want that. You want to be heard and you want to be understood. And right now with everything going on, with all the voices we're hearing with the coronavirus and how people are responding and being in quarantine and social distancing and everything that we're going through, it's nuts. And I want you to know that I'm in the trenches, in the thick of it, along with you, with my kids at home. My wife's job is likely to, every day we're waiting to hear more about these things, just like you are. And so I just said, hey, with all the voices around us that we're waiting to hear news from or that we're looking to for wisdom or advice, I thought I would share with you some of my favorite voices from this last week in the form of memes. I love memes. And so here's a few more memes for this week. Here's the first one right here. Day 2 without sports. Found a lady sitting next to me on my couch. Apparently she's my wife. She seems nice. Okay, maybe your world's been flipped upside down without being able to watch sports. Here's another one. I like this one. This is our reality because we have kids at home. Homeschooling's going well. Except for 2 students suspended for fighting and 1 teacher fired for drinking on the job. Okay, this is my home. My kids fight and my wife drinks. Okay, so let's keep on going. Here's another one. I like this one. Here's a tip for you, okay? I'm stocking up on cheese. Don't need toilet paper if you're constipated. Okay, so if you get nothing out of today's talk, here's a helpful tip for you. Just go get some cheddar cheese when those stores are out of TP. And then finally, I saw this one. I thought this was really great. Anyone else feel like life is being written by a 4th grader right now? And there was this virus, and everyone was scared, and then the world ran out of toilet paper. Yeah, and then there was no school for like a month, and then it snowed. I love this stuff and seeing the different memes that are coming out. But this is why we're doing this series, because all of us have a big mouth that can get us in big trouble at times. All of us say things that we wish we could take back, but we can't. And so imagine if we lived in a world where we could be quick to listen and slow to speak. Our words are one of the most powerful things that we have, if you think about it. It's possible that our words can do more damage than any other part of our body. I mean, you can destroy a person with words without even being in the same room as them. Now, we're going to look at the book of James today in the New Testament. We did last week. We started in James. James is the little brother of Jesus. And James is trying to help those following Jesus in Jerusalem continue on that path, continuing on shaping their life to be more and more like Jesus. And so James has got some great insight and some great wisdom that we're going to look at today. In fact, it's quite possible that some of our greatest regrets in life are surrounded by words that we said that we wish we could take back. Relationships maybe that have been hurt or even ended, jobs that were lost, like things, painful things that we've experienced that have happened because of our words. And if we could take heed the advice and the wisdom that we learned from James today, maybe if we could have done this a long time ago, we could have avoided some of these regrets. And so here's why this is important. That if we can together lean in and learn from James and learn from the wisdom that he had, even though it was 2,000 years ago, you're going to see how practical and how simple, but not easy, but practical and simple for us today to put into practice, that how we could avoid some of these pitfalls of relational strife and turmoil and really even separation if we could just learn from this wisdom today. Now, if you're not a Christian and you're watching this, you're tuning in, thanks for being here, and I hope you consider these words. Don't tune out just because this is from the Bible. I want you to know that's okay to not have it all figured out yet. We always talk like that it's okay to not be okay, that you don't, and so we're going to learn and we're going to look at these words together, and we get to individually decide how they apply to our life. James wrote these words to Christians that were living in Jerusalem. And regardless of where you're at on the faith journey, you're going to realize right away that these are some extraordinary insights that we learn here today from the New Testament that were penned by James, the brother of Jesus. In fact, if you've never read the Bible before, maybe you're even like, I don't plan to ever read the Bible because it's like a big, irrelevant book, or whatever your views on the Bible are. I just want you to know that if you've ever thought, maybe I should start, but I'm not sure where, it can be pretty intimidating. And I want to jump in and read this small little chunk of the New Testament. It's called James, and we often call it a book. Really, it's more kind of a document that was recorded or a letter. And so James is in there, and I would encourage you to jump in and read that, okay? And think about how you can apply that to your life. Just see the wisdom that you can gain from here. So here's how he starts off. This is what he says right here in the beginning in chapter 3 and verse 2. He says, we all stumble in many ways. Isn't that true? All of us do it. None of us are void of that. Like, we all stumble in many ways. But listen to this next statement here, because really this is like the thesis of everything that follows, and so insightful. He says, we all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect. Well, what do you mean perfect, James? He tells us they're able to keep their entire body in check. In other words, if you can gain control of your mouth, if you can gain control of your words, you will keep your entire body out of trouble. That's how powerful your words are. To which we'd say, James, could you give us an illustration here? Absolutely, he says. Let's go into the first one. Let me illustrate it for you. First, like this. He would say, when we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Now, I don't know, this is James' world, like dealing with farm and agriculture, so horses were like normal to them. Maybe you're not familiar with horses, maybe you are, but I hung around horses a few times as a kid. In fact, last summer, we took our kids for a day. We got invited out to a ranch to go ride horses. And so I remember my kids on the horses, and specifically I remember my 3-year-old, who's our youngest, and she is riding this massive animal. Her feet they can't get anywhere near the stirrups and put her feet strapped in, but her legs kind of just like literally like stick out because they're not even long enough to wrap around this massive animal. And as a dad, I'm watching my little daughter on this massive animal, but I'm not even worried because while she's on the horse, she's being walked around the pasture by this woman who's holding onto 2 thin leather straps called the reins. And these reins then are strapped to the bridle, and the bridle is what has the bit inside the horse's mouth. And she can walk this horse around the pasture anywhere that she wants it to go. Why? Because if you can control the mouth, you can control the whole animal. This is James' point here. He says when you can control the mouth, you can control the whole thing. Maybe you don't like horses, okay? He says, oh, here's another illustration, for example. Let's talk about boats. Let's talk about really big boats. So he says this, take ships as an example. Although they're so large, and in this first century church that James is talking to, I mean, boats, ships would have probably been the largest thing that they've really even built at this point besides buildings. So these are huge for them. Maybe a ship at this point could have possibly held about 200 people plus cargo and had big sails. And he continues to go on. They're so large and they're driven by strong winds and they're steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. So you have these large boats with these large sails. And weather is what is driving them, but weather's unpredictable on which way the wind will try to push the sails and push the boat. So there's this small rudder at the back of the boat that the pilot, the captain, gets to decide the direction and destination of this very large ship. And so James is helping us understand here, hey, it's obvious, okay? It's obvious that it might be small. There might be a small part, but it has big influence. A small part, but big influence. So he's like a rudder on a ship or the bit in the horse of a mouth. It might seem insignificant proportionally to the entire object. I mean, look at the size difference of these parts. It's insignificant proportionally, but it has extraordinary influence in terms of the direction of the animal or the direction of the ship. And then what James is going to argue, it also has extraordinary influence in the direction of our life, in the direction of my life, in your life. See, he goes on and he says, likewise, just like the rudder, just like the bit, likewise the tongue. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute, and it's kind of a little bit gross here, okay? But I don't want you to miss the power of what he's saying. Think about the size of your tongue. Okay, think about the size of your tongue compared to the rest of your body. And the tongue is really one of the ugliest parts of the body. Nobody wants to see your tongue. It's about 4 inches long, and it has the power to control the direction of your life. Think about this. This is crazy. In fact, when you think about the tongue is made up of about 8 different muscles. And what's so funny about these muscles, and you already know this, is that these muscles never get tired. Like, right, if you go lift weights, like you go, your biceps, like you can fatigue, you can get tired, but your tongue, man, it can just go forever. And so the tongue doesn't even get tired, and it's this fascinating little muscle in your mouth. And James is saying, hey, this can control the direction. He says, likewise, the tongue, even though it's a small part of the body, it makes great boast. So it has extraordinary influence and power. And he says, okay, you need some more illustrations here? Let me put it like this. He says, consider this. Think about this. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Now, his audience would have had to use their imagination here. They may not have actually ever witnessed a forest fire themselves. Like, we have the news. We've got, and in Washington, we've got fires like all summer long, right? You can't go outside because of the air. And so we see stuff like this. We see forest fires all the time, right? Where we know that every year, every summer, there seems to be some fires burning around our state and just thousands and thousands of acres that get burned and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of damage to homes and buildings and real estate takes place. And what James is trying to tell us here is that such a small thing can lead to such big devastation. And so James is saying this is important. I think that if James would have been alive today, he probably would have used one more example on this, one more illustration. He would have been like, consider this. Consider what such a small virus can do to an entire population, right? Because that's our world. That's what we're going through right now. But he's like, hey, this is important. Don't lose focus right now. He's like, the tongue, our mouth, your words. He goes on, he says, the tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. That your tongue, your mouth, your words has the potential, look at this, we know this is true, it has the potential for so much evil and so much hurt and so much pain. Now, it's important to know that next week we're going to look at the positive side of this, because just like it has the potential evil, it has the potential for so much good. But James here really seems to be focusing on the negative. So next week we're going to look at so much positive, but James is focusing here, and I think he does this because we all know what it's like to be on the wrong side of this. To receive words that hurt and cut deep, or to give words that do damage and cut deep. And so he's like, this is important to understand the evil that can come from words, endless amounts of evils, all kinds of different types of evils. I mean, think about with words, different types of evils that can happen. I mean, a divorce is initiated through the words that you speak, right? Murder can happen because of an argument that you have. Wars have been fought over words that were spoken. And all of us, though, are born with this pilot light on. And it can spark up and flare up and cause a great amount of damage. Something so small, but yet so influential. And he goes on, though, James does, he says it gets worse. The tongue, the words, it actually has the power then to corrupt the whole body. Your tongue has, and we all have a story, right? It wouldn't take long to think of a story where our big mouth basically got us in a lot of big trouble. And it gets our entire body in trouble, right? Like if you're a parent and your kid's mouthing off to you, and you never go and you don't take them and say, I'm going to put your mouth in timeout, right? No, you put the whole child in timeout. We know what this is like to say something that we wish we maybe didn't, and now we're in trouble for it. This is James' point, that your words, your mouth has the potential to get our entire body in trouble because your words in your mouth, it's powerful. He says it has a potential, and going back again to this fire imagery, it says to set the course of one's life on fire. The whole course of your life. As your words go, so goes your life. As your words go, so goes your relationships. And you have the potential, and I have the potential to burn down a relationship with my words, to burn down my marriage with my words, to burn down the relationship I have with my kids or the relationship I have with my friends with my words. I could lose my job with my words. I could lose my career. I could forsake my future with my words. And the truth is, and this is pretty convicting, is that some of us have scorched the people we love the most with our words. We've said things and we've hurt people and we can't take it back. And then when we get confronted about it, what do? Well, we often just simply defend ourselves, right? That's like it's a natural thing. Well, we get defensive. Again, we get back into this posture. We're ready to fight. We defend ourselves, and what do we do to defend ourselves? We use more words. Well, and we have all these, well, I was just being honest. Or, oh, man, I was so mad. Or like, well, you can't blame me, I was drunk. Or like all these things. Well, I didn't mean it, right? And but the truth is, and you know this because you're intelligent people, that even if you accidentally start a forest fire, guess what? You're still responsible for the fire that you started. And if you start a fire with your words, even when it's on accident, you're still responsible for that fire. Our words are powerful. And unfortunately then for us, though, our words are also, they're not all weighted the same. Right? You've heard this said, and I don't know what the actual statistic is, that one negative comment can wipe out a plethora of positive ones, right? One negative comment can ruin such a good day. And then whoever's saying the words holds different weight for us. Like a teacher's words weigh like 100 pounds, man. They're heavy. They have so much potential to build kids up or to tear kids down. And a mother's words, that's like 500 pounds of words, because a mom has a way of making you feel safe and secure and confident. And those are the words of your mom, and they mean so much. And then a father's words, and I'm not sure why this is, but it seems to be true, that a father's words seem to be the heaviest. I was a youth pastor for a number of years, and now I still work as a coach to middle school students. So I'm around students, and I've been around students a lot. And I can tell you what, I'm not surprised anymore. Like I used to be surprised when I was new to it, but I'm not surprised anymore at the difference of kids who have parents who show up to things, and those parents that show up to seem to just want to criticize their kids. The difference that makes for them, or the kids who have parents that show up and those parents seem to just want to celebrate those kids and cheer them on. Man, it's a big difference that it makes for those kids. I'd be talking to a student and I'm trying to help them understand their potential. I'm trying to help them see their future, that they are enough, that they haven't messed up too big, and what they communicate to me is something along the lines back like, yeah, like I get it, but I just wish my dad would say that to me, right? Our words are powerful, and they're not all weighted the same. You know what my mom did that day that I swung at that inside pitch and broke my hand? Well, she was actually the umpire of the game, so she called me out. So I guess that doesn't really apply to this. But listen, your words are powerful, okay? Chances are right now, and with everything we're facing, chances are you've got some extra time right now at home to spend with those that you love or to reach out to those that you should. I wonder what's hanging in the balance of the weight of your words. What relationships are out there that could be transformed, changed, built up, rekindled because of words that you could speak during these days where we are almost forced to slow down and consider life and consider what's going on around us and those that are most important to us. What difference could you make with some well-placed words? What difference could you make with some thoughtful phone calls or texts or meaningful conversations that you could have around the dinner table? Think of it like this, because I just want this to be really practical, okay? So think of it like this, and I want you to fill in the blank here. What does my wife, or what does my sister, or what does my son, what does my best friend, what does my neighbor, and you fill it in, need to hear right now? And think about them. What do they need to hear? What do they need to hear to be encouraged? What words could you speak right now that would bring encouragement to their life? What do they need to feel loved? What do they need to not be afraid in these uncertain times? What do they need to make things right? What do they need to hear from me in order to mend our relationship? And whatever you would fill in that blank with and complete that sentence with, I want you to know that that's your next step. Like we always talk about next steps here because we want things to be practical. We don't want you just to be hearers of the word, but we want you to do what it says. Okay, James actually says that. Read the book of James. But we want this to be super practical. And so how would you answer this question? Who do you need to speak words to help them feel more loved, to make things right, to set some things straight? Who is that? And what is it that you need to say? And I would encourage you, in fact, I dare you to take that step. Don't even wait. You can do that today as you turn this video off, as you can start right now. So as you think about that next step, and a lot of you already know what it is, I just want to pray for you that you would have the courage and boldness to act out what you feel prompted and led to do in this moment. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this encouragement and really maybe this warning that we can heed from these words from James. God, that we would learn together from them, that we would be reminded that the value of being quick to listen and slow to speak. And God, as we think about the who it is in our life that would benefit from these words if we were to speak them, God, that we would take that step today, this week, to act on that we would be intentional with the time and the people we have around us or the people that we need to reach out to, that you would help us with that you give us the courage to do it, and then we'd walk in obedience to take that step this week. In Jesus' name, amen.